So, what if the biggest promises in life could be true right now, but also not yet complete? It sounds like a riddle, right? Well, that's the paradox we're exploring today, straight from the Gospel of John. It's a fascinating framework for understanding salvation that might just change how you think about security, fulfillment, and even time itself. Let's dive in. To get our heads in the right space, just think about this for a second. Is a promise fulfilled the moment it's made or the moment it's actually kept? That tension, between a present guarantee and a future reality, that is exactly what we are going to unpack today. It is the absolute key to this whole thing.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at this promise of being kept. Then, we've got to tackle the big, tricky question of Judas. After that, we'll get into the really mind-bending already/not yet principle, see how it works with 4 really solid examples, and then we'll bring it all home.
All right, so our first big idea is all about eternal security. There's a theological concept for this, and it's called preservation. It basically asks the question, once someone is saved, can they ever truly be lost? So what exactly is preservation? Well, in this theological view, it's the idea that God himself actively keeps believers saved. Think of it less like a one-and-done transaction, and more like an ongoing act of being held securely, right up until the very end.
And this quote from the Gospel of John, man, it gets right to the heart of it. Just notice the language here. It's so absolute. Jesus says his mission is to lose nothing of what the Father has given him. This is framed as this incredibly powerful promise of security, a guarantee that these people will be raised up on the last day. And wow, this just drives the point home even further. Look at the layers of protection here. First, the promise is eternal life, which by definition doesn't end. Then you get this double guarantee. No one can snatch them from the Son's hand, and, as the very next verse says, no one can snatch them from the Father's hand either. It's a picture of just absolute, ironclad security.
But, okay, this powerful promise of being kept immediately brings up a huge question, a really obvious one. If no one can be lost, what on earth happened with Judas Iscariot? He was one of Jesus' own disciples.
So this question leads to 2 main ways of looking at it. On one hand, did Judas have a genuine salvation and then just lose it? Because that would seem to completely contradict this principle of preservation. Or, on the other hand, was he maybe never truly saved in the first place, only appearing to be a follower?
This particular framework lands firmly on that second option, that Judas was never truly saved or regenerated to begin with. The evidence they point to includes these descriptions of him as the son of destruction and as a habitual thief. So the key takeaway here is that, in this view, Judas couldn't lose salvation because he never actually had it. His story becomes this kind of strange exception that, in a way, reinforces the rule of preservation.
Now for our second big concept, and honestly, this is where things get really fascinating. It's this idea that God's biggest promises are fulfilled in 2 stages, creating this overlap period, an overlap that we are apparently living in right now. Okay, the fancy term for this is eschatological fulfillment, but don't let the big words throw you. The core idea is pretty simple. With the first coming of Christ, the great promises from the Old Testament started to be fulfilled. That's the already. But their final, ultimate fulfillment, that's still in the future. That's the not yet.
This timeline really helps visualize it, right? You have the prophecies being made, then Christ's first coming kicks off the already phase. And we are living right here, in this in-between era, the overlap, the final, complete fulfillment, the not yet. Well, that happens at Christ's second coming.
Okay, so how does this abstract idea actually work? What does it look like in real life? Let's get concrete and look at 4 central aspects of the Christian faith to see how this already but not yet dynamic plays out.
This table just breaks it down perfectly. Let's walk through it. First, salvation. Right now, believers are already considered not condemned, but their final, complete salvation in a new creation, that's not yet here. Okay, next, resurrection. Believers experience a spiritual resurrection now when they believe, but the future physical resurrection from the grave, that's not yet a reality. Even the second coming fits this pattern. Christ already lives in believers spiritually, but his physical, visible return is not yet upon us. And finally, glorification. Believers are already being transformed and changed today, but that final, perfected state in God's presence is not yet achieved. See? You can see this tension playing out across the board.
Okay, so let's bring our 2 big ideas together now. We've got this solid promise of being kept and this dynamic tension of living in the already/not yet.
So what does all this mean for the believer's experience?
It all comes down to this one incredible paradox. This framework suggests that a believer's experience is one of living with absolute security, held firm by a promise that is already fulfilled, while at the same time living in this eager anticipation of that very same promise's future completion. It's a present reality and a future hope, held together in perfect tension.
And that leaves us with a final, really big thought to chew on. If the most important promises can be both fulfilled right now and still await a future completion, how does that reshape the way we view the past, present, and future? How might that change our experience of time itself? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this explainer.